Just a moment. Exodus chapter 6. Exodus chapter 6. We're talking about Aaron tonight. Aaron, the brother of Moses. I think Exodus 7, verse 7, gives a little bit of introduction to this because it lets us know that Aaron was 3 years older than Moses. Exodus 7, verse 7. Moses and Aaron did so. They did just as the Lord commanded them. Now Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. So you've got Aaron, the brother of Moses, and he is the older brother of Moses. He's 3 years older than Moses. Chapter 6, verse 23 gives us a little more insight. Somebody read 22 through 23, if you would, please.
If I look at those names, you don't want to read.
Okay, I'll read them. The sons of Issachar, Korah, Nepheg, and Zikri. The sons of Aziel, Mishael, Ezaphan, and Zithri. Verse 23, Aaron took as his wife Elisheba, is the way I was going to pronounce that one, the daughter of Amminadab and the sister of Nahshon, and she bore him Nadab, Abihu, Eliezer, and Ithamar. So there's his wife's name, the four sons' names, and two of those sons are very well known. We're going to get to those a little bit later, but Moses, Aaron, his brother, and now you have Aaron's wife, and then you have Aaron and his wife having these four sons, Nadab, Abihu, Eliezer, and Ithamar. And so there's kind of a little bit of introduction of what the first time we're introduced to this man named Aaron. In this context, what's happened is God has called Moses to be the one who will lead the children of Israel out of Egyptian bondage. And it's in that context that God tells Moses that I'm going to give you a spokesperson. Moses gives all kinds of complaints. You remember that. He's called to deliver the Israelites out of Egypt, and he makes all these excuses one by one. And God answers those excuses one by one. And one of those was, I think, chapter 4, verse 10. But Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I'm not eloquent, either in the past or since you've spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue." The excuse there is I'm not a good speaker. I'm not one who would be qualified to do all this really important speaking that you've appointed me to do. So what he does then, verse 11, then the Lord said to him, "Who's made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with you, your mouth, and teach you what you shall speak." But he said, "O my Lord, please send me someone else, or send someone else." The anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. He said, Is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. Behold, he is coming out to meet you. When he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth. And I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you both what to do. He shall speak for you to the people, and he shall be your mouth, and you shall be as God to him. And take in your hand this staff with which you shall do the signs. Did you notice that there's a word that's continually used there? Of course, there's a couple of different ones that are used, but the word mouth is continually used. The whole idea of speak, he'll be your mouth. I'll put it in your mouth, and so the emphasis seems to be that God is going to provide Aaron to be the mouthpiece. As a matter of fact, in some places you have that same word that's translated prophet, that would be the spokesperson for God, the one who speaks for God. So you have that I think, as a hint there, because God selects Aaron to be the spokesman. He would be a partner with Moses. So he has Moses' head, Moses' heart. He has Moses as the leader of the people, and now God says, in order to take care of your opposition to me choosing you and your unwillingness to do what you said you're going to do, what I want to do is to provide this prophet, one who will speak in your place, one who will do the speaking from the mouth of the Lord in your place. So you're not doing that. It's interesting too, I think, that the very name Aaron means a lot of things. You know, when you look it up, you can find there's definition A, B, C, D, E, and so you don't really know which one of those to pick. But it seems that most would agree that the name Aaron has something to do with the idea of strength and enlightenment, something to do with power, strength, enlightenment, and something of that nature. As a matter of fact, in one place it said the name Aaron meant mountain of strength. So that might be a clue as well about his name and God's using him in this place. Okay, any observations before we get deeper into the life of Aaron? Anything maybe struck you right now as we just kind of made a few introductory comments?
I'm not sure on this, but Moses would argue with God and make excuses and stuff, and Aaron never would. He'd just do what he was told.
Mm-hmm.
So he really did sort of, I mean, anybody else would be like, well, why am I not, in Moses' position? I deserve to be there because I can speak, I can do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he was willing to serve the purpose God wanted him to serve.
Yeah.
And did it without complaining or anything.
Great observation. Ryan's observation about Aaron being the oldest, being the one that could speak. He just took that position that God gave him, and he did what God said. And I think what I said before, he's using Moses for his head and his heart. And of course, I'm not saying that Aaron doesn't give him all those things as well, but Moses is going to give him this service to the very end, and it's going to be with great ups and downs. Aaron just doesn't seem to be that kind of leader, that kind of leader that could take control of 2.5 million Israelites coming out of Egyptian bondage.
Aaron and Moses made a good team. I think about where's basketball, football, whatnot. You've got certain people can do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And remember when I was in high school, we had a player that he was a good rebounder. And he told me, he said, "Boy, I'll rebound and you
All right.
But that's the way it is. Aaron was a follower, Moses was the leader.
Mhm.
But I think their backgrounds is what made them fit into those positions. What had Aaron been doing? He had been a servant, a slave. Moses had been raised to lead
Mhm. Yes.
the Egyptians.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Their background, their training, it was used to God's benefit here in this. I think the other uh, team that probably fits this from the New Testament would be Paul and Barnabas. You've got Paul, who would be that Moses type. He's the one that's outspoken and he's going to be bold. And then you've got Barnabas, son of encouragement, and they're working together in the church there at Antioch. When the Holy Spirit says, "You guys, you elders, send them out on this missionary journey." So you have, I think that is, as Mari mentioned, that's good teamwork when you complement one another. Randy?
Have you ever not seen somebody for 40 years and then see them after 40 years? I mean, I just went to our 50th, anniversary this summer, the graduation from high school reunion, and I was only a couple of people out of them, that I wouldn't know any of them, and and maybe a couple of them
Uh-huh.
that I've seen them, also really before. But I mean, if I hadn't seen them 50 years, Aaron hadn't seen Moses neither one of them 40 years. And why did he come? I mean, God says, he's going to show up. And he's going to meet you. I mean, could you imagine traveling all those miles and actually connecting with each other
Mm-hmm.
on foot?
Right.
I mean, just, it's a God, obviously. I mean, it had to be, God had to tell Aaron. So how did Aaron know to go?
Right.
Why did he go? We know why Moses went. We're not told why Aaron went.
We don't give that. We're not giving that side of the story, are we? But Randy's observation, I think, is one of those Old Testament moments when we see something that just comes together, and you can't just say, "Well, that was a neat happenstance." No. It was God who said and did, and this is how they ended up coming together, and how they met, where they met, and why Aaron was even on that road. Yeah.
It would be funny if Aaron had been told, he just happened for some reason had to leave Egypt and decided to go and happen to run into each other. What? I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. And all of a sudden we see Moses. I don't know. I mean, we're not told one way or the other.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
But God was evidently in control of it.
Obviously, yeah.
Even if Aaron didn't know it or not.
Right. All right, good observations. Anything else? Chapter 4, let's see. Okay, verse 24, chapter 4, verse 24. That'd be a good place to begin. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met him and sought to put him to death. And Zipporah took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it and said, "Surely you are the bridegroom of blood to me." So he let him alone. It was then that she said, "A bridegroom of blood," because of the circumcision. The Lord said to Aaron, "Go into the wilderness to meet Moses." So he went and met him at the mountain of God and kissed him. And Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord with which he had sent him to speak, and all the signs that he had commanded him to do. Then Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the people of Israel. Aaron spoke all the words that the Lord had spoken to Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed, and when they heard that the Lord had visited the people of Israel, and that he had seen their affliction, they bowed their heads and worshiped. So the meeting of Aaron and Moses, they embrace, falls on his neck and kisses him, and there's this proclamation that God gives to the people through Aaron And remember, Aaron's being this spokesman, he's being this prophet, the mouth of the Lord. And as he speaks to the people, everything that God had told Moses, now it's everything that Moses has told Aaron and everything that God has told Aaron. And they do the signs. We don't have any specifics there either, Randy. We don't know exactly what signs those were. But they did signs in the sight of the people. By the way, that's a theme that runs all the way through the Old Testament as well as the New Testament up to the end of the apostolic times, when the signs or the miracles were used to prove that the message was from God. So you have that here. And the signs that were performed in front of the elders and the people, the elders of the people of Israel and the people, caused them, the text says, they believed. And then what they also said was, the Lord has certainly seen us in our affliction, and He has answered. He's answered. So this all comes together. See, it all comes together because when you back all the way up, what you find is the burden on the people of Israel had become so great that they cried out to the Lord. They cried out to the Lord, and they sought relief from the burdens that had been put upon them by the Egyptians. There arose a Pharaoh who did not remember Joseph. Remember that as this introduction to the book of Exodus chapter 1. He increases their burdens. He makes it more difficult. It is a terrible, terrible situation. So they cry out to God. Did they know that He had heard them? Not till now. He didn't yell down and say, I heard you, I'll get somebody there pretty shortly. No, He didn't do that. They keep crying out. And so finally, He goes to meet Moses from the burning bush. And now you have Moses and Aaron who come to the people, the elders of the people, and come to the people. They declare the word of the Lord to the people, and they back that up with signs, whatever those may have been. So you have this progression that goes on. Oh, by the way, one of the important things is when the people cry out for relief, when they are in great distress, God could have snapped His fingers and brought them out of it. But what He did is He went to a man. He chose a man. Now, could God snap His fingers and have the gospel in all the world all at one time? In the blink of an eye? Sure He could. But He chose a man. And so you have this same idea. The word has come from the mouth of Aaron, and now you have it proofed by these signs, and the people believe. And their conclusion is, the Lord has heard us in our distress. They bowed their heads and they worshiped. To me, that's one of the most powerful sections of this whole story of Moses and Aaron and the coming to the people. We spend a lot of time on the burning bush, and we teach our kids about all that. But to me, this is a powerful moment when the people have obviously been won over to the side of God again, where they have heard the word and it's been confirmed by these miracles. All right, any observations? Oh yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they get out there at the foot of Mount Sinai. We'll get there if time allows, but they're there at the foot of Mount Sinai, and they totally lose faith and lose confidence in Moses and God and everybody else. I think Aaron helps that along as well. There's something that Aaron is blessed to be able to do. We mentioned it in chapter 7, verse 9. Pharaoh says to you, prove yourselves by working a miracle. Then you shall say to Aaron, take your staff and cast it down before Pharaoh that it may become a serpent. That phrase or that idea that Aaron is carrying a staff is, I think there's about 5 times when that's referred to in one way or another in chapter 7 and 8 of the book of Exodus. I think maybe in some of the older translations it may be referred to, Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's referred to as the rod of God at times. I think so. What is that? What's the significance of Aaron being the one to carry this particular rod of God or this staff? Okay? So you've got one group that it's going to communicate to that this man who's speaking is carrying this rod, this staff, and therefore he must be a man of power. Okay?
Didn't really want anything to do with God. That's why they gave the land of Goshen so they could be separate. One reason is because they were shepherds.
Mm-hmm.
They did cattle. The Egyptians did cattle. They didn't do sheep.
Mm-hmm.
So here, maybe Aaron also was a shepherd. Like the Israelites, like the Hebrews were. That's the main thing. They did. I guess they were shepherds too. So that they had some really awesome. But it could be that is also, it might be kind of interesting. Them to just go in there with their shepherd staffs. Before Pharaoh,
Yeah.
Them like, yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of idiots you think what you kind of idiot behind the eye? You know, there's a couple of shepherds doing shepherd staff.
Right.
Come in here and tell me what to do.
That would be ironic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, verse 19 in the English Standard, it does say, take your staff. Now, that could have been a shepherd's hook. It could have been a rod. It could have been, almost any stick. It could have been just a walking stick. But because of the situation, I think there's something significant. Let me just see if I can, if I can put it the way I'm thinking. And that is that since Aaron is the spokesman, he has that authority that would be seen by the one carrying this staff. And so I think it would be representative of the one who has divine authority and is the prophet of God. And so we've never done this before, but if you're having a family meeting, you hand something to the one who can talk, right? The one, it's my turn to talk because I have the baseball bat or whatever it is. I have the, I have the pretzel. It's my turn to talk. You can't talk because it's my turn to talk. And when you're through, then you hand it to the next person. Well, the one with that staff, the one with that rod, is the one who has the authority to speak the words of the Lord. Pharaoh, yeah. So I think the Egyptians would have understood it, and I think it was also a symbolic move by God for Aaron to be the one that carried that, because he's the one that's being the spokesman, the prophet of God. We don't know anything else about him because he would obviously have been in the multitude that's in bondage in Egypt, is all we know. Mm-hmm. It's very possible, and it's likely that he would have been leading the children of Israel in whatever, being from the tribe of Levi, there would be that that would be given later on, would given them great responsibility as Aaron and his descendants being the high priestly family, and then the tribe of Levi being those that served in the temple. So, good question, but we really don't know a lot. Yes. Yeah. He did, and I don't know if his excuse making in the beginning when he was called by God, if he had that fear that you're talking about. Number one fear that people have is public speaking, and the second one, yeah, second one is likened to it, and that's death. You're afraid you're going to die if you speak in public. So. No, I don't. I think I remember what you're talking about, but we know he was in Egypt. Moses was not. Aaron was. So. Oh yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He would obviously have taken on a whole new character because he's been there 40 years. By the way, I mean he's already been there 40 years as a shepherd. Right. 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 But it came back to be of good use in the next 40 years. So that's 120 years of his life. I said we'd refer back to two of Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu. You probably are very familiar with the story of those two. They're obviously of that priestly family. Aaron, a high priest. His sons are priests. They are consecrated. They are set apart for God, set apart for His service. They are sanctified. They are among many things that God has given out and dealt out to Moses that would be the way of conducting themselves as people of God now that they had been delivered from Egyptian bondage, and now here they are in this new place, guided by God, pillar of cloud, pillar of fire, and all of that goes with it. Everything is going to change. Everything is different. There's going to be this tabernacle. There'll be the priesthood. There'll be all kinds of feast days and all kinds of sacrifices that must be observed. All of that, everything that goes along with that, really centers around Aaron as the high priest and that the fact that his sons are priests, Exodus 28 and following. You have this also in Leviticus chapter 9 and 10. So you have Nadab and Abihu who are serving as priests, and you remember that they offered a fire that was unauthorized. So you have that sin against them, and immediately there was a fire from heaven that came down and consumed them. Ironic again that God would use fire to punish them because they used the wrong fire, but they were consumed then by that fire from heaven. And these were sons of Aaron. These were sons of Aaron. I don't know if Aaron's time of weakness in Exodus 32 had anything to do with what happened with his sons. I have no idea what might have caused them to do what they did, other than what is in the text. But I do know that in Exodus 32 we have this colossal overreaching of Aaron into an area that's going to result in God threatening to just kill the whole lot. When Moses is coming down off the mountain, and there's this orgy-like party that's going on down below, and all kinds of things that are going on, and this reveling that's taking place, and the worshiping of this golden calf. And we've talked a lot about that scene and what was going on there at times. But the fact remains that when everything is taken care of, when God deals out the punishment, when God brings judgment upon those who've sinned, the thing that is true is that God gave second chances. And He gives Aaron a second chance. There is the observation that I have at this moment where if that were us, we would probably throw Aaron out and he would be banished, and there'd be no more of this Aaron guy. I mean, we'd try to probably blot his name out of the Bible if it was up to us. But not only does God take care of everything and make everything right by doing whatever He has to do in order to judge the people, Aaron is given a second chance. I don't remember who it was. We were talking. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they said something like, if I'd written the Bible, I wouldn't have put that in there. I'm not talking particularly about this, but I'm talking about things that do not make the followers of God look very godly. I mean, you look at David. If David were in charge of that and putting the kings together and putting the books together that had his life story in it, there would be a redacting of history right there, wouldn't there? There would be a creating of a whole new history, because David is not going to let it be known what he did. His imperfection and his bad choices and his grief and the sorrow and the things that he did. And if Aaron were in charge of this right here, Aaron's certainly not going to put Exodus 32 in. Right, exactly. So the idea that we have the reality of mankind, and that the truth abounds, that God uses the imperfect people. He uses imperfection. He uses broken pots. He uses those of us who just can't seem to always get things straight. And He did the same thing with Aaron, because in Aaron's time of weakness, we have a kind of an exclamation mark that says God can still use the imperfect. He still does.
Sermon is pretty clear. You talk about verse 21 of this, that when Moses cast out, there was other people that nourished him for her learned all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and deeds. So for the time God got to him after 40 years of shepherding, he's like, I've got everything I know about this property.
Yeah.
I'm no good. I've been talking to sheep.
Yeah, exactly. Randy brings up from Stephen's sermon in Acts chapter 7 about Moses' description there, mighty in word and deed. He was very well educated and probably was, and I don't know if this was just an excuse when God finally called him or if he did really forget. Or maybe he just felt inadequate after realizing that he's a murderer. You know, he was a murderer and he fled for his life, and maybe he just felt inadequate. Whatever the reason, God's plan still was to bring Aaron in there and give this team the opportunity to deliver this message.
How many of us would feel that?
Right.
I don't know anybody that would feel that.
Right. Exactly. It's one of those moments in the history of mankind where you drive down that peg right there where Moses and God are having this conversation, where you could call it this burning bush moment, or you can call it the remove your shoes moment, however you want to call it. But Moses is having this conversation with God Almighty. And I'm sure he feels very inadequate because he realizes his life is laid bare before the one he's talking to. Take off your shoes, for the ground you're standing on is holy ground. I'm not worthy to stand on holy ground with my Father, with God. I'm not worthy. So yeah, that would be tough. That's one of those moments when that's a significant moment right there.
Yeah, it's also interesting that always, there's tradition of it, always usually there's a contained, here, God brings to it. Whenever Jesus sent out his disciples,
Two by two, yes.
70 were going to send out those two each. And then here, whenever God called Paul and Barnabas, in Acts 14, to go to the mission, so he called these two men together. It's always happening when you have another person. By yourself, you just, maybe you just won't be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been part of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Hey, Barry, I do have a question on something that I was wondering about. It talks about how the people told Aaron that they wanted to make gods, little g.
Mm-hmm.
It says, so he told them to bring the gold. Okay, I'll make you one. And when he made it, it said, they said, this is our God, little g. But then Aaron makes that proclamation, okay, tomorrow we're going to give offerings to the Lord, capital L. So what's going on? Is Aaron resisting them somewhat?
I think he is. I think we kind of sacrifice Aaron at the expense.
About one guy against the
Yeah, we kind of sacrifice Aaron, kind of with this whole group of folks, but
I think he was just trying to do crowd control.
very possibly.
Maybe he was waiting for God to do crowd control.
Yeah. Maybe we can bide time. Yes.
Go ahead and do that and see what happens.
Yeah. 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 And it just popped out. So his response lets me know that he wasn't completely innocent, but I think we probably give him.
I think he was trying to control things, but he did the wrong thing.
Yeah. I think our time's almost up, but let me give you number 17, Aaron's rod buds, and then you have Aaron's death in Numbers 20, 23, and following. One of the significant moments I think, in Aaron's life would be when he is standing over the people as the high priest, and he gives them, well, I shouldn't put it that way, I guess, but he supplies for them through the plan of God an opportunity to gain forgiveness through the atoning blood of the scapegoat. Remember that from Leviticus chapter 16, the Day of Atonement? If I'm not mistaken, I think I remember hearing that 16 or 17 times in that chapter there is that word atonement that's used. So the significance of that day, and remember, as the chief priest, as the high priest over the nation, Aaron is going to preside. He's going to be the one to provide the sprinkling of the blood on the people from the goat that dies, and he's also going to be the one to lead that goat out of the presence of the people. And as he leads that goat out of their presence, the thing that they're going to say is, "There go my sins. My sins are on that goat," because the sins of the people had been ceremonially placed upon that goat. And wow, what a day to preside over that for Aaron. Okay, I think we're done.